All right, everyone, welcome back into another PGA DFS live stream. Going to be covering both the Arnold Palmer Invitational as well as the Puerto Rico Open, getting into the top picks for both of them. Okay, I'm going to start out with the Puerto Rico Open just to kind of kick off the stream with that because I haven't given any content for that tournament just yet. So we're going to go ahead and get into that one. And so I'm just going to keep it at this kind of preview screen just as an FYI. If you guys have any questions, make sure to get those in the chat. I'll try to highlight those as the video progresses. So just going to click on the Puerto Rico Open here. So looking at it, this is actually a pretty solid field event. I think this is going to be one in which we can attack. It feels like it's a little bit easier to predict than it was last year. And last year we had Ryan Brehm as an outright, one of the best long shot bets that we hit all of last season. In retrospect, extremely lucky to hit Ryan Brehm as an outright bet last year. Like, he has been terrible since then. He found form like for 2 weeks prior to it, and extremely lucky. Okay. So looking at it, Trey Mullinax is coming in as the top rated player in the model. Okay. And so, yes, is he the best play this week? Sure, he is. Okay, he's been playing some solid enough golf. He's a good enough stat fit. Course history is solid. 7th place last year. He is a top 10 specialist as well. Like, overall, yes, he should be the highest rated player in the field. But I want to point this out. This is extremely interesting to me. We only have 3 players with over a 70% chance to make the cut this week. To me, that is extremely crazy. Like, if we go to the other event and sort it by that, we have 4 players with the 90% or more likelihood to make the cut. And don't even get me started on the cuts, guys. I don't know if you guys saw that news on Twitter just yet, but the PGA Tour might be making a poor decision with their cuts. And that would be pretty unfortunate for every, golf fan out there. And hopefully they decide not to do that. But looking at it, like, Andrew Novak is going to be one of the better plays, I think. Andrew Novak has been coming in some great form. 3 straight make cuts in a row. 29th, 20th, 69th, barely missed a cut in 12th place finish over his last 4 events. He's the 3rd best specialist in the field. Had a 22nd place finish. We always like to look at event history, course history. Just a player having it is going to be huge, okay? So I like the fact that he has that. He's the 3rd best staffed in the field. And overall recent form, right? This is a little bit skewed, okay? Still pretty good recent form. 3rd best pick in the 9 to 5 mile. It's going to be tough not to love Andrew Novak, both in your DFS builds and also if you're doing some outright bets. So, like, for a build here, I do think Andrew Novak, you can easily fit into your builds. And I want to call this out. Like, sure, he had one bad round at the American Express that really hurt him. But for the most part, he's been playing solid enough golf really this whole season. Like, to me, he should be the favorite to win. And let's pull up his odds here. Let's see. That's Arnold Palmer. There we go. Yeah, so we can get him at 22-1 still. Those are pretty good odds. And that's kind of the thing that I like about the Puerto Rico Open is that there's some really good odds there. And I really like that. So I think we chased that a little bit there. The odds at the Puerto Rico Open. Okay. And looking at it, guys, like, for what it's worth, like on the DP Tour, which I would say this is kind of similar, it's been pretty solid model-wise, picking the winners and whatnot. So I think that'd be the route to go. Scott Pierce is ranking out pretty well. Dylan Wu's ranking out pretty well. Bakhtia is ranking out pretty well. But I want to call it MJ Duffy because he was kind of the next standout play, I would say, as well. We look at it, 9.3. It is a tough price point to get to. I get that. But overall, he's been playing some extremely good golf. So we look at key stat-wise. Nothing too alarming key stat-wise. And so I like to see that. Okay. Course history ranks, he has course history. Once again, I just like to see players that have course history. That is a good thing. So we can see he's casually coming in, like, checking all the boxes. I guess he has 2 miscuts. But prior to that, have been playing some solid enough golf. So once again, if we pull up Duffy on here, we can see that, like, yes, this was terrible. 85, terrible. But other than that, like, he had been playing some solid enough golf, even in the events that he was missing the cut in. And so if he can just eliminate that one bad round, he should be solid. And so I'm perfectly fine. outright betting him as well. Sure, we're getting him at 22 to 1 as well. Solid odds though, right? So we're getting two really good bets at 22 to 1. I will be taking those. And then from there, if we continue on, like Cameron Piercy, I was a little bit shocked that we're getting this price tag for him. Look at the course history here, guys. And he is someone that does produce well at events like this. 7th, 7th, 44th. Really good stuff there. Like across the board, specialist ranking 20th. Course history rank 7th. Stat rank top 12. Recent form rank 4th. Like he is just a solid play across the board, coming in as the 5th best pick in the 9 to 5 mile. I'm actually curious as to what his odds are, 25 to 1. So we can see they are kind of just grouping everyone together because they kind of have to. They don't feel like they have a good feel in the tournament. So we could be able to take advantage of that. I think that's kind of the route to go for the Puerto Rico Open this week. And then just continue on. There's a couple more players I just want to call out. Like we have a small sample size here for Ryan. He's all right. But Bryce Garnett, if it wasn't for the 55th place finish last week, I wouldn't be on him, full disclosure. But he did get it. And so he is definitely like a secondary event specialist. I actually should make that data point. That'd be kind of fun because he just dominates it. Whenever there's the alternate event, Bryce Garnett has been one of the studs. Obviously, we can see 7th, 5th, and 20th. Really good stuff there. Coming in as a top 20 play. So he's another play that I like. But look at this, guys. Like the made cut percent is so terrible for every player this week. I can see why people might want to pass up on it. So Vincent Norman is one of those players that, given the tournament, we can end up on him. Like if we look at his starts, like in these tournaments, I always like to look at players that don't have that bad of miscuts. And so he would be one of those players. If I can find him on here. 1 second. Here we go. I'm just talking about recently. Like, sure, the Pebble Beach Prime was, but prior to that, had rattled off some under par rounds and just wasn't able to make the cut. So he is someone at 7.9. I firmly think we can end up on, like, if we shoulder shrug, I always talk about like shoulder shrug plays. Like if you end up on them to close out your build, you're fine with it. I kind of see Vincent Norman as that. So I got a couple more picks that I'm going to cover for this Puerto Rico Open, and then I'll be getting into some of the questions that are coming in. Then I'll be getting into the API a little bit more directly, going over PrizePicks and Underdog to start, and then I'll be getting into, well, you guys see the script there right below me. So I'll be doing that after the Puerto Rico Open. A little bit different this week, obviously. I see some questions coming in as well. I'll get those answered in just a second. Looking at like Ryan Armour, to me, is like one of the, it sounds weird to say, I don't want to say, but he's one of the best players in the field. Okay. And it sounds weird, but we're getting him at 7.8, coming in the 10th best recent form in the field. It's very easy to end up on Ryan Armour. Sorry. And it's a strong price point. Like he should be able to go on and play well at this tournament. And then from there, we got a couple more that I just wanted to highlight. Really these three right here. It's a clear cut mispricing here. And I would actually be fine outright betting all three of these. So let's start with Jim Herman. So Jim Herman, not the best specialist. That's going to be the biggest worry. Maybe that's why he's priced this low. Course history-wise, though, had a 7th place finish at this tournament last year. Okay, sure, he was playing much better golf last year, but Jim Herman is a guy that can really go out and have these randomly good tournaments. And so, relatively speaking, his recent form isn't terrible if we look at his last 5 starts. We'll take that, right? Recent form rank in this field over the past 5 starts, 11th best. So pretty good stuff there for Jim Herman. Let's look at his odds outright wise. We can get him at 60 to 1. Pretty good odds there. And then for what it's worth, let's look at Josh Teeter. 70 to 1 for Josh Teeter. Wow. That's pretty darn good, right? Oh, man. Let's see. Great course history, right? Stat fit, good enough. Like, nothing too bad. Recent form, pretty strong, especially compared to the field. Coming in as the 11th best pick in the 9 to 5 mile, the 2nd best specialist in the field. Like, we have seen some upside finishes from him. If you were to throw in some Corn Ferry Tour starts as well, he'd be one of the better plays. I honestly can't believe we're getting him at 70 to 1. I get why he's kind of priced at, maybe 7.5 on DraftKings. That is a play in which if he misses the cut, I'm perfectly fine with it because the price point is that appealing. I'm perfectly fine, doing that. And so Obviously, theirs doesn't go as back as far. They're pulling up his Corn Ferry Tour stuff lately. Obviously, we'd like that to be better, right? 25th, 42nd, miscut. That's terrible. And then a 20th on the Corn Ferry Tour. That's where it is difficult to use Corn Ferry Tour stuff. And that's also why his price is low. But to me, it's kind of a standout play. Probably going to be a little bit more motivated to play well, obviously, on a PGA Tour event. Then lastly, someone that's been catching my eye quite a bit this season, and I don't know if it's because PrizePicks had him against, I think, Thomas Dietrich like three times. He beat Dietrich in birdie or better. But he has been someone that's been playing some pretty good golf lately. So look at these last 4 events: 26th, 53rd, 55th, and 55th. And that's all on the PGA Tour. So he is someone that has been playing some strong golf. And I'm actually curious as to what his outright odds are. 45-1. So we're getting a pretty good number there on him. So I feel like we were getting some good numbers. Like, sure, could Scott Piercy win? He could. Nate Lashley strong. Sam Stevens fine. Dylan Moo fine. But we were getting just great odds on a lot of those golfers. And to me, it's a very appealing thing that we can go out and attack this tournament. And then for what it's worth, let's just call out some other plays here. And then I'll be getting into the API stuff. So I just scrolling down, Sean O'Hare clearly mispriced. Vaughn Taylor would have been a great play. He's out. Scott Brown, I'm fine with him as a pick. Should be able to play well at this tournament. Let's see here. We got some of these players kind of popping up as well. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Value price point wise, we can end up on it. And then we scroll down. We do have some mispriced players. Boo Weekly, kind of a small sample size there. But we kind of get it. So real quickly, let's just run a lineup just to give you guys a kind of first look build. So I do have to put in 2 data points into this for it to work. So who are the 2 players I like probably the most? Novak, let's just bump up his projection a little bit just to ensure that he gets in the build. And then MJ Duffy. Okay. I set the max exposure to, 30%, and let's put 3 unique players in there. Boom. Now let's generate. This is a good build. I like this. This is a solid build. And so guys, as the DP Tour as a comparison, this season in 2023, so using the PGA Tour 2023 season, by just doing this step without even putting much time into it, it's been profitable just running the optimizer like that, using the DP Tour. And I would say the data that I have on this, these players, is a little bit better considering they have a lot more PGA Tour starts. So just interesting there. But now we're going to switch up and we are going to get into the API real quick. We do have some questions coming in. I'll answer those real quick here. All right. So let's limit this to golf questions, guys. I don't mind Chris Paul over assist, though. And then Chris, awesome, dude. It's 6-man. That's awesome. And these are PrizePicks stuff. And I'll begin into the next section here. So not terrible timing. That's awesome. I love to see it. Good stuff. All right. So Cantlay, Im, Hovland, Fitz, rank them in GPPs. That's a good question. So for me, that is a good question. I honestly don't know. It's just if I look at my the write-up with the player pool, I have them all ranked the same. Literally, Cantlay, Hovland, Im. They're all right attached to each other. Now, Fitz would be the best pick amongst those 4 if it weren't for the back injury, news and situation. Now, I did see a quote saying that he still isn't 100%, but definitely feeling a little bit better than he previously was. Obviously, has great course history. I don't know. Cantlay's making his first start here, I believe, as well. So there's that worry. I probably would. I'm fine. I just default to Sungjae a lot, but honestly, they're all 4 really solid. And that's the issue this week is that, in my write-up that I do each week, my biggest struggle was I can't find an edge, literally, with how they priced some of the players. Now, yes, I was able to make decisions and whatnot, but there was sections and groups of players, and it's that one specifically, Xander, Cantlay, Hovland, Im, where I'm there's nothing we can do here. They're all 4 really strong plays. Let's just be on them all about the same amount. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we are going to get into kind of the PrizePicks prop side of it here. Just give me 1 second here. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this up on here. So looking at it right now, these are some of the props that are out there. And actually, I need to refresh this. Give me 1 second just to make sure that they didn't change, because I know that they changed the Hideki line as well. So give me 1 second. And I'll pull this up in the meantime. Here we go. So I tweeted this out, and I'm trying to see if it's even there still. Did they take it down? They did. Darn it. All right. I hope you guys had watched that video earlier today about the strokes with Hideki. They took that prop off, and I don't think he withdrew. I'm pretty sure he hasn't withdrawn or anything like that. They probably just took it down because of the injury situation, because of my tweet. I know they're monitoring me, guys. I'm just kidding. I don't think they actually are, but you never know. It's strange that when we find a big edge like that, they literally take it down right away. Yeah, not seeing anything for him. Interesting. But there is kind of an edge here, it does seem like. Okay, so once again, if we pull up the PrizePicks prop board here, there's some edges. So if we just sort it by edge, the best bet that we're getting right now on PrizePicks would be Jon Rahm over Shane Lowry, birdie or better. And I don't really like touching the birdie or better matchups. I just don't. It's much more of a 50-50, it seems like. And if it was strokes, it'd be so much easier to predict, right? But it's birdie or better. And they do that for a reason, right? It's going to be more difficult to hit. But more times than not, Jon Rahm is going to be able to beat Shane Lowry. So this is a prop that I don't mind. I mean, huge edge there. You look at the average birdie scored by Rahm, so much more than Shane Lowry. And if we look at Shane Lowry, recent form, 2 good events in a row. Prior to that, 2 poor events. And so Lowry can score, don't get me wrong. And maybe Rahm is due for a poor event. I just don't see that happening just yet. I think he's a very solid play. And so from there, Tony Finau over Corey Connors. Now, Tony Finau is someone that we know very hit or miss with his putter. I mean, shoot, he could get 5 birdies. He could get 1. It really just depends on his putter. But the fact of the matter is he's going to give himself opportunities for birdies. And so Corey Connors is much more of a safe and consistent player. He's like our Webb Simpson play, all of 2 years ago, pretty much, where we're just going to get consistent results out of him, not really asking for too much. And so it makes sense why he's being favored. And then Max Homa over Tommy Fleetwood. Max Homa to me is probably like the 4th best player in the world right now, just given how well he's played. Great on harder scoring tracks. Played well at this tournament in the past. He should be able to manage it pretty well. Now, Tommy Fleetwood's not terrible as well, but this is one of those situations where if we look at the price difference too, just like using DraftKings, we would see it'd be a pretty good one as well. But for the most part, I don't like using those. So let's just go ahead and take that prop off the board. And so if we take that prop off the board, we are left with, let's just click on these ones, these 2, because they're not giving us GUR, they're not giving us fairways hit. Unfortunately, those are kind of the free squares each week, right? So looking at like JT, you could do overstrokes, and they might have adjusted these slightly because it doesn't seem like there's as much of an edge. JT overstrokes is still not bad. And actually, let's look at let's look at Underdog real quick. See if they have this at all. Okay, so the over bets on Underdog are still not bad. Now, for Underdog, I actually don't mind the idea of some of these early AM golfers. And let's scroll to it. We were getting a great line on Sanjay M earlier and like Sam Burns. So obviously the course typically plays a little bit easier in the morning. Okay, that's why we target the first round leaders in the morning. That's how we've been able to hit the first round leader, the last 2 weeks. I don't mind Sam Burns. He actually ranks out decently. He has to shoot even par in the morning wave. That doesn't look too bad weather-wise. And tomorrow doesn't look too bad weather-wise, but Burns is a pretty good round 1 scorer. Looking at Hideki, we got it still here. So Hideki over 7.1 strokes. 71 and a half strokes, okay? If he's banged up and he still finishes his round, getting that afternoon tee time, that is finishing even par for that to hit. We'll take that, right? That's a pretty good number that we're getting there. Let's see. Where's Sanjay M? There he is. Oh, they dropped it slightly. This was 71 and a half earlier. So just 1 under par. Now they have it set at a push. Still not bad. If we look at the first round leader, which I'll get into in a second here, he's the most likely to have the first round lead. Or maybe John Rahm was. One of those two. So still not a terrible one. And so, yes, the average scoring is over par at this tournament. But these are the best players in the world. So I don't mind those prop bets. Like, they're fine prop bets that we can make. Let's go ahead and look the other way here. And we have some players that we could do the understrokes. So all these players are projected to finish over par here. And I would say if they have an AMT time, I'm fine with making that bet. But this is where, like, doing stuff round one is kind of difficult. We don't exactly know how the tournament's going to play, how the setup's going to be. Like, we know that it typically is over par, right? And pulling in the player averages, you know, based off of that, not the best because these are harder scoring tracks. I don't mind them. And this is one of those situations where I actually don't mind just betting all of these. And so, like, more or less we are betting on how the course is going to play. You could bet all the unders here because those are the best bets that we're getting for the under. If the course plays a little bit easier than expected, probably should hit. You could also flip that around and do it this way as well. So that's a situation in which I don't mind. I think that's a smart, easy way to go about doing it. And so I did kind of want to try another draft for Underdog while I'm doing this video. If you guys watched last week, you saw me mess up during the draft, pretty much. I was trying to chase pretty much just players that had the best. What happened there? Did it kick me out? Okay, here we go. The best round one showdown rank. So we got a little bit here. And so that's kind of what I want to do again. And so let's kind of get into that segment as well while I'm doing this. So we get into the betting tab here. Give it a second to load. Well, you guys are in here, you know, make sure to give a thumbs up here. If you guys are watching on Twitter, appreciate you guys being in there. First time streaming on Twitter in quite a while. Hopefully it's going well. I'm actually curious. I haven't streamed too much on both Twitter and YouTube, so we'll see how this is going. It's solid stuff here. I want to get the information out to more people. I feel like I've kind of been letting down the community a little bit with not putting out more content. So I've been trying to do that a little bit more. So we go AM. Let's hope I'm not messing this up again. All right, we're good. Okay, so Rahm, Rory. I have to check this. I don't know if this is pulling in correctly, actually. So we'll just do it by first round leader rank. Let's see. There we go. So Rahm, Sanjay, I'm fine with that. Let's pull it up on PGA Tour, actually. So I'm fine with that. We got Scotty in there. We could go with him. So let me go ahead and just do that real quick. So Rahm, starting out with him. We're good with that. And then Sanjay. Like, Sanjay is a great value here. So we might not have to go with him in pick 2. And guys, this is where I was able to gain an edge. Round 1, I lost money. Round 2, I lost money. Round 3, I won, I think, 60, like just doing a $10. And then I didn't play round 4. So, you know, $30 profit, you know, pretty solid day. We'll take that any day of the week. And so some other players are popping up. Tagala is not terrible. Scotty, JT, Jordan. So let's see. Power. And so I'm looking at both the tee times and my sheet here. Wise. This is kind of like the things that we need to do to be successful. It's a little tedious sometimes, but it's, for the most part, it's going to be worthwhile. I'm not exactly going to go in this order or anything, but it could be worthwhile. Ooh, Day Hovland. All right. We should have enough with that. And so hopefully this draft fills shortly. If you guys want to join, you can as well. If you think you can beat me, go for it. And if you guys want to join Underdog, like I said, I think this is a big edge. You know how we have an edge in round one showdown by pretty much chasing the players that had the highest likelihood to have the first round lead? Well, I also think that that could be a route in which we go here as well. It's something that I think there's an edge in currently. If it fills, we'll see. It's not filling just yet. And this is weird. I've never had to wait this long for it. But if you do, use the promo code. Links in the description. Just helps me. And it's pretty nice to use Underdog. Typically speaking, guys, and you guys already saw it, Underdog's a little bit slower, it seems like, to react to the props for PrizePicks and Underdog. And so I think that's a big edge that we have there as it sits right now. I wish we would get some like GUR stuff and whatnot. We're just not getting that. GUR, fairways hit, and whatnot. They're smart not to give us that right now. Oh, I see what's going on with that other sheet. Come on, Phil. Okay, I might just leave this. Whatever. I'll show you guys my results here. It should be filling. I don't get why it's taking this long. It's kind of crazy there. So I'm going to leave it for now. That's unfortunate. It's fun content. I think we have an edge there as well. So just looking at overall first round leader rank, let's take a peek. John Rahm, Sanjay M, Rory, Scotty, Victor Hovland, Max Homa, Cantlay, Hatton. Hatton's a very interesting name this week, I would say. Aaron Wise typically plays well in round one. Okay, so he's someone we can target. Seamus Power, he's someone we can target. And this is why I'm like calling out guys, like using the best ball draft and using like these first round leader ranks, using the showdown ranks, you can gain a big edge on the field, just like you can on the showdowns, round one showdowns. And like we are going to be using these players as well, round one showdown wise. If we look at the weather, it's nothing crazy though. Okay, so originally it seemed like the weather was going to play a factor. And right now it's not. I put out a tweet pretty much showing people, hey, these are the best players in worse weather conditions. And it actually got a lot of love on Twitter. It was pretty awesome to see. It's a very rare situation in which we get winds in which are going to be over 21 mile per hour winds. And it's not looking like we're going to have that anymore. And so that's something where we have to monitor. Like 10 mile per hour winds, not enough to really change anything. It doesn't really change scoring too much. Now, anything over 15 mile per hour winds, we do start to see a change. And so if there is a weather advantage, and it currently seems like there is, a little bit of the AM will have a weather advantage. That's going to be great for showdowns, okay? But the one thing when we're making our main builds is we don't exactly know what the PGA Tour will do ever. Like if it gets really crazy wind, will they suspend play randomly in the afternoon? We don't know. Like they do random stuff like that. And so it's not a terrible idea to prepare for a few lineups with AM only and a few lineups with PM only. But as it sits right now, it doesn't seem like there should be a big difference in weather advantage, especially when it's 2 days away right now. Maybe we wake up Thursday morning early before lock and make some changes based off of that. But as it sits right now, nothing too crazy. And so Saturday, 50 mile per hour winds, not that much. Don't really have to worry about Sunday, not that much. And so originally it seemed like the weather was going to play a big factor. Doesn't seem like it's going to play a big factor right now. And so it is what it is there. Like we can't really change too much there. And so now let's go ahead and get into some outright bets. And we did get a question here from David. Rose, Fleetwood, or Fowler. I actually kind of like Ricky a decent amount. I'll touch on the ownership here in just a second to highlight that, the ownership part. And so we'll see if there's an edge there or not. But yeah, as it sits right now, I just Fleetwood's pretty chalk. I know that already. Like we're pretty much being told to fade Fleetwood based off of his ownership. Rose is fine. It just seems like Ricky's been trending in the right direction for some time. I feel like Ricky and Day are kind of the same play, except Ricky, he hasn't had the most recent upside like Day has had, or like the consistency at this tournament like Day has had with upside. But to me, they're kind of the same play. Okay. It's a good question though. And that's kind of the issue. We do have a lot of alike plays in some same price points. But let's go ahead and look at the outright winners. And so, like, guys, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's weird. Like DraftKings, I've been monitoring this. DraftKings salary is actually it's more predictive than if we were to go based off of the outright betting ranks at the beginning of the week that DraftKings has out for their sportsbook by about like 2.7%. Kind of crazy, right? Like you would assume that the sportsbook would be a little bit sharper. Now, obviously, that's at the beginning of the week. Just something I found crazy there, that on average, the salaries are actually better at predicting outright winners than the sportsbooks. So one thing I just kind of want to point out is potential value. And this is something that I already called out. So we'll sort by this, but we want to do this. And because like basically every single tournament, someone that's top 25 or better is winning. Like it's kind of dumb to not do this pretty much. If you are not scaling it down, it's kind of just a waste of time. Now, Brian Fox is someone that ranks out well because, I'm including DP Tour starts and because of the weather. He is someone that does play well in tougher weather conditions. So if it does play a little bit more difficult, he's not terrible. I don't think he's going to win. Ming Woo Lee probably not going to win. Keegan, you could find an edge there. I don't really see those guys winning. Now, is there a chance that maybe someone like Power could win? Maybe. But like value-wise, we're seeing Sanjay, we're seeing Fitzpatrick, we're seeing Lowry. Do I think any of those are going to win? Maybe Fitzpatrick. Okay, that's an outright that I have made. And so for what it's worth, let's just sort by odds. The odds that I have out there, or the bets that I have out there, are Kyle Morikawa. I think everything's just coming together pretty well. And this is actually a funny thing on Twitter as well. I put out that win tweet. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was actually kind of funny to me. There were so many people saying Kyle Morikawa and JT are terrible weather players. I'm like, it depends on what sample you're looking at. Like Kyle Morikawa the past year had been struggling with his swing. So the past year, he's been hit or miss with his swing. Like he had 3 top 10 finishes and 3 finishes that were less than 40% or 40 or worse. So it's just like, no, he's hit or miss. But if we go back further, when he wasn't having these swing issues, he was pretty electric in poor wind conditions. Like 18% of tournaments in which were bad or worse weather conditions. Bad is 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. Worse is 20 plus mile per hour winds. He had 18% of those as wins. Like that's crazy. Wins and wins. So he won 18% of those tournaments, which is crazy. I'm like, that doesn't seem like a guy that's terrible in wins. So it's kind of weird how people can view golf data differently. And sample sizes do matter. Like when you're looking at it does matter. Like with the worst weather conditions, because it's kind of already a small sample size. It's very rare for a tournament to have 20 plus mile per hour sustained winds throughout the whole week on average. It was a small sample size already. And so a lot of people were shocked that Colin Morikawa was popping up there because, he hasn't actually played well in some of the most recent poor wind events. But I attribute that, and it makes sense, to his swing being off, right? If your swing is off in a poor wind condition tournament, the margin for error is a lot greater then. You're going to make more mistakes if you're not controlling your golf ball in those bad weather conditions. And so it made sense. But he is someone that long-term wise, one of the best poor weather players. So if his swing's back, and that's really the bet, I think he has a great chance to win. Now looking at Terrell Hatton. Terrell Hatton has insanely good course history at this event. We get him at a really good number, I think. I'll pull him up here. He's actually coming in as the 5th best pick in the 9-5 model. Now, what is the purpose of the 9-5 model? It's to highlight players that are most likely to make the cut and also measure upside. That is what this model rank is trying to do. Okay, so look at the course history. It makes sense, right? Second, 21st, first, 29th. That is great. Recent form has been solid. He's been making a ton of cuts in a row. They might not be the best finishes, but we can see as a whole, been very solid, has given us some upside as well. Look at Specialist. Plays well on hard scoring tracks. Plays well in these type of conditions. 9th best Specialist. Okay. 12th best in recent form. 6th best Stafford. Like, as a whole, Terrell Hatton's a very great play. And so it's no shock that he's popping up this much. We can kind of see this is good value. And so, like, both DraftKings wise and outright wise, just makes a ton of sense. And then for what it's worth, I think as it sits right now, guys, like with how well Jon Rahm has been playing, I just think we have to make the first round lead an outright win for Jon Rahm, because every single tournament thus far this season, it seems like he's number one in first round leader rank and also outright rank. And so if that hits like twice, we're good, right? Hit last year with that. And so I don't mind that. Like there's ways to go about betting Jon Rahm this week, or you just bet him and him only if you think he's going to win. And he is the class of the field, just a stud this week. So you could easily bet him as well. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Ricky has been playing well ever since he changed his swing back or got rid of his swing coach. He's back, like literally just like that. And that's why I find it weird when these players make swing changes and whatnot. It doesn't really make sense. Like he literally had a swing coach and then for, over a year and a half sucked with that swing coach. And then he's back. A lot of people are blaming it on equipment, the golf ball and whatnot. I blame the swing coach. And so now let's get into the ownership here. This is kind of a fun thing to go over, especially I think this week. So as a whole, and I kind of like to start with this, where are people starting their builds out? Well, it seems like with Rory. And so because of that, we are seeing like someone like Jon Rahm and Scottie Scheffler come in as a pretty good leverage play. And for the most part, guys, like in fields like this, and this is crazy, this is kind of the unfortunate side of these elevated events, is that with the field so loaded, like all the players are never like properly owned compared to how like they're supposed to play. But like Max Homa is by far the best leverage play we have this week, right? Look at the price tag, look at the players around him. Like you could easily, if you don't want to afford to pay up for Jon Rahm or Scotty or Rory, you're perfectly happy ending up on Max Homa because he's been playing that well, has great course history, and he's another one of those players that I think makes for a strong outright bet as well. So I'll bring that up real quick here. Like to me, it is kind of clear. It's like Rahm, then Scotty, Rory, then Homa, then a big gap as well. And so looking at Homa, we can see great course history, 17th, 10th, 24th. That's all good stuff there. Nothing alarming. Like he's coming in, checking all the boxes. Like great recent form. Okay. Like we're fine with this. Like I kind of went back and looked at his starts after a W, and they were all, I wouldn't say significantly worse because for the most part he was able to make the cut, but you can tell that little bit of a post-win hangover, if you will, was there. He bounced back really well in the last tournament, though, second place finish. And what I loved about it is his quotes after it. He seemed highly motivated to go ahead and play well in the next tournament. And so to me, that's very encouraging. And what also is encouraging, obviously, this fact that he is popping up as the number one leverage play this week because, well, at 16%, given how strong of a play he is, that is simply too low. And so we can see Sungjae Im. Sungjae Im is one of the better plays this week, just given his consistency both at this tournament and season long. And like more times than not, he's going to be someone that makes a cut. Yeah, he has random miscuts. And I don't like the form over the last two tournaments, but at the same time, it does make sense why he's popping up, especially compared to the other players around him. Adam Hadwin is someone I did not end up on at all this week, but been a cut maker. And so part of the equation that goes into this is cut percent, made cut percent, both likelihood and over the past 20 events. And so it's no shock that he's coming in as the third best leverage play. And so now if we go ahead and look at players that are coming in poorly, and I don't like this, guys. Yeah, Tommy Fleetwood's still the worst ownership play we can make this week, which sucks because I have him as a high exposure play. I have him as a top 10 play in the 9-to-5 player pool. At the same time, given the quality of field that we have, I could see a route in which we are fading all these players that are a little bit overvalued compared to the players around their price point. Do I love Ricky? I do. Do I think Aaron Wise is a very cheap price play? Yes. Tommy Fleetwood, great play. Yes. But let's go ahead and look at some other players in that price point range that we can end up on. Ben Griffin, the king of TikTok. If you guys haven't checked out Ben Griffin's TikTok, please do. It's awesome. But like, just look at this. And like, this is a perfect example of how this works. Like Adam Hadwin, solid play this week. Not great. But we can see Tommy Fleetwood, Keegan Bradley, about the same. Adam Scott, about the same. And so we can see like at those reduced ownerships for someone like Adam Scott, Justin Rose, we can see why Keegan and like Tommy would not be rating out as well leverage wise, given the price tag. I feel like that's a great example of how this works. And then like Wyndham Clark, not a terrible play this week, but given how he's projected to perform this week, it's not as good as Adam Hadwin. So that's why Adam Hadwin's really popping up there. And so just some other plays that, Hideki, 10% ownership for a guy that's citing some injuries. It seems like that's a weekly tweet. Like I'm pretty sure the Hideki tracker Twitter account literally just schedules that tweet each week that he has a tournament and schedules it for Wednesday and tweets it out. It's a weekly occurrence in which we're getting some sort of Hideki back, neck injury type thing. And it sucks. But if that's true, and I know he's at an extremely cheap price tag, but if that's true, there's no need to force it. Like we got Keith Mitchell there, who's a pretty strong play, ranks out a little bit better. Like we can just do that. And now like Chris Kirk, Keegan Bradley, like they're starting to get into those like ownerships where we have to think about it yellow and whatnot, but nothing terrible. And so I'm actually surprised Sam Ryder's really popping up there. Interesting. So if you're trying to find like a value leverage play, not terrible. And so just kind of looking it over some more. Nothing too crazy. It pretty much just says like if someone's overowned, and we're not getting a high tier play overowned really. They're all kind of properly owned. I would actually say, Rory's probably a little bit overowned. No need to force him in there. He's a great play this week. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather pay up for Jon Rahm. I'd rather pay down for Max Homa than play Rory, who's 10% higher owned than Max Homa. That seems kind of crazy to me. I'd rather, and this is weird. So like Will Zalatoris coming in at 20% projected ownership, and let's just look at the highest owned players on the slate. He's coming in as the third highest projected owned player this week. And this is where it's kind of strange sometimes when we look at it pricing wise. Like, why are people on Willie Z that much more than Colin Morikawa, Xander, Hovland, Im? They're all kind of the same play. And so that's where you can maybe find a slight edge ownership wise. And that's kind of why they're pulling in as slightly better plays, if that makes sense. I'll just show you guys that here as well. Like Willie Z, not a terrible play. Like by all means, he could win. Like he is someone that's coming in, basically checking all the boxes beside that last start. Not a terrible play. Could easily win. And let's see. I think he's coming in as like a core play. No. Maybe a high exposure play. Okay, high exposure play. So how this data tag works is it's pretty much an equation that's like, if they're checking all the boxes, they're a core play. If they're checking basically all the boxes, they're a high exposure play. So Willie Z and high exposure play. He could easily win, wouldn't be shocking. But given the players, given the consistency, and that's really what this is measuring here. So we could go with Xander, we can go with Homa, Hovland, Cameron Young. Haddon's obviously a great play, and we got Keith Mitchell there. So very interesting stuff there, I think. Now we'll real quickly get into the value report and then give you guys kind of my lineup process for this week. So DK value, and I don't know how I feel about Chris Kirk. Is he going to respond well after that victory? That's my biggest question. Has really good course history. Coming in as the best value. Then Nick Taylor. I think Nick Taylor, guys, is a extremely sneaky play this week in general. Okay, we have a lot of great values. I'm surprised Zach Johnson is in chalk, honestly, because you can fit like Jon Rahm in there pretty easily then. And there's a lot of great plays. Robbie Shelton, there's a lot of sub 7K plays that are good plays. And I touched on that in the core plays video at the end of it. So if you haven't checked that out, it's good stuff. But like Nick Taylor, low owned, Adam Hadwin's obviously popping up there as well. So some interesting names. It wouldn't be surprising to see Seabass play well. We look at FanDuel value, kind of more of the same. Corey Connors, Chris Kirk. Then let's look at Yahoo value, and this is where it gets interesting. So, like, if you want to play Wyndham Clark, it'd be on Yahoo where he's min priced. Benny Ann, very interesting play at 7K this week in general. And this is where it is kind of fun to play on different sites because you could play him at minimum price on Yahoo, where clearly too cheap there. And this is where it's nice playing in DFS contests where these fields are elevated like they are. Because getting a play like him, min price is crazy. He's someone that looks like a strong play this week. Clearly, they shouldn't be that min price. Danny Willett's a sneaky value play, I think. Justin Suh could be all right. Robbie Shelton's there. So a lot of interesting names when looking at the value price tag of it. And so now we'll get into the 9 to 5 lineup builder. Once again, if you guys have any questions, get those in the comments section. I'll be happy to answer those, especially after this section. But I'm going to get into the lineup builder. So I already did one for the Puerto Rico Open. This is what we were looking at. And I didn't change much really at all. And so if we look at the player exposure, let's see here. I don't know. I probably would cap him at 15%. And probably same here. Campos as well. Norlander probably as well. But for the most part, there's not much work we have to do with this. This has been kind of how I'd want it to be. And so real quickly, let's look at round 1 as well. Just see who the top round 1 plays are. And obviously we know Sanjay is going to be a good play and Ram. Let's just put those two in there. I'm going to do the same thing settings. We're going to go to 30%. And 3 unique players. We're going to generate and see what it spits out. Interesting. Ryan Fox. It's probably too high. And for Mingwu Li as well, probably too high. Huh. That's interesting, though. I probably won't do much with this. I'll probably bump, and I can show you guys that real quick. So for round 1 showdown, and I probably do want to favor the AM wave a little bit more. I might do that. Let's just go ahead and cap some of these ownerships a little bit. I'll generate it again. Yeah, that's much more appealing to me. Maybe a little bit too much Gary Woodland. Probably reduce him a little bit, but not bad. Like, I'll take that. And so now if we look at the big board. And so I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how I get like the players that I want to be on more, how I kind of force them into the lineup builder a little bit. So real quickly, I'll show you guys kind of my player pool here for the week. And if you guys want access to this, I have this available every single week for 9 to 5 members. It's included in the $10 membership. Gives you kind of all the biggest detailed breakdowns of kind of what I'm looking at. So this is kind of my player pool. So what I want the most of is Rahm, Homa, Hatton. Those are kind of the clear-cut plays. Then Morikawa, a little bit of Keith Mitchell and Tommy Fleetwood. But once again, like, do we want to be on Tommy Fleetwood that much as the worst chalk play we can make this week? I don't know. Maybe not. So that might be someone in which we have to cap. But first, we want to kind of bump up these projections points-wise to tell the lineup optimizer that I want to be on them a little bit more. Rahm's already crazy. It's crazy. Like, how is he not 10K? I get that the pricing is soft this week to appeal to us players. But what are we doing? Come on. Like, he should have been 12K for the past 3 weeks. I get it maybe 2 weeks ago or 2 tournaments ago, but the last tournament should have been 12K. And I guess given the pricing structure of this week, I guess it makes sense why he's not 12K. I'm actually very shocked at how they've been pricing the tournaments. And maybe that's something users were sending back, that the pricing needs to be softer to make it more fun. Very loose. you can make a lot of lineups work. And actually, one player that I want to bump up projection wise, and kind of just to promote a more studs and duds build because of how strong the field is, let's bump up some of these lower price plays. It's like Robbie Shelton. He's already bumped up a little bit, but let's give him 74. Shanks, a decent play this week, 70. Zach Johnson. If Zach Johnson doesn't make the cut, that's going to be sad. I talk about players being the correct plays, kind of giving their price points a lot, and that's kind of how it feels with Zach Johnson this week. Where if he misses the cut, I'm more than willing to accept that. Because why are we playing him? We're playing him because he's a cheap price tag and he's looking like a made cut at a cheap price tag. He allows us to be able to fit in the best play this week, which is Jon Rahm, or we can fit in the top leverage play, which is Max Homa. And so it's pretty awesome that the top leverage play is a player that I was already favoring. And then we get Jon Rahm as well at a lower ownership than he should be. And I get why people are defaulting to Rory, because it is very close between Rory, Scotty, and Rahm. You just default to which one's the lowest price. But that's why I'm ending up on Homa as well at 9.7. He's such I just don't get the pricing this week. The pricing on Puerto Rico Open is much better than the pricing on the API this week. Willett's okay. Don't want that much of some of these players here, which is we'll have to see. So let's bump up this a little bit more. All right, so let's run this once. Obviously, I fine-tuned this throughout the day and whatnot. But let's see. Jason Day popping up in there. That's fine. Corey Connors, probably too much of him, I'm guessing. And yes, these two, I don't want that much of. But we can see it is definitely promoting a more fair and balanced lineup with Victor Hovland and Sungjae pulling in there, with Terrell Hatton, with Keith Mitchell. And so this is one of those interesting things where if I wanted that much of Jon Rahm, I'm going to hit the lock button. And we don't go crazy with the lock button, but we're going to want more of him. And then we're also going to bump up direction to see if we can get more of him into our builds. So we got Jon Rahm 30% and we got Homa 30%. That's much more balanced. And so what I could do is I probably, don't want that much of Nick Taylor, drop it down to 10%. Same thing with these players. So, I can show you guys that here as well. But if we're trying to max enter 150 lineups, it's going to take, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get the way that you like. And unless you just want to fire from the hip and have it be a decent build, it's like anything. The more time you put into it, the better the outcomes are going to be. So Day, Fleetwood, I am going to cap at 15%. I'm not really on Tom Kim too much this week, so I'm just going to put him at 5. 2 for Seath. All these plays. If I want to be on more players, I'm just going to increase their projection slightly. So let's see here. Okay. Not terrible. But what thing are we seeing here? We're not getting that much of Zach Johnson and all those players that I wanted. So I'm going to create a rule real quick. So when a lineup includes Jon Rahm, I want at least, let's do 2. So Homa. Let me just see here. Fox we could go with. I'm fine with that. Shelton, that's good. Woodland, Cole, Shank. Oh, I kind of like Ben in, and let's get a little bit. We got Nick Taylor in there already. That's fine. Let's try this. Okay, so we can now see that's pulling in Zach Johnson into that build, Robbie Shelton in that build. We got Adrian going into that. So it's definitely a way in which you can kind of tell it that you want a more of a studs and duds build. And I kind of like that a decent amount there. And so let's see if we have any more questions. Biggest amount won on DraftKings for PGA. Like in 1 week or what? I've won the mini max twice. And I do that. I do a lot of single entries, especially this year. I kind of told myself, and this is what sucks the last 3 tournaments, is that I know if I was still doing that, probably would have won one of them because that's how strong the player pool was, or came close. You know, it would have been a fun sweat. But I told myself with all the avenues to bet on golf, that I need to stick to one strategy with PGA DFS. So that's one main lineup in cash, and which has been awesome this year. You guys know that if you're following along. And then I'll enter that into some GPPs. Once again, the reason is because while we have showdowns, like it's about bankroll management. We have showdowns now. We have outright betting. We have 3-ball bets. We have underdog. We have prize picks. There's just so many ways to go about betting that very much need to have a plan. And that was my plan, is that, all right, I'm going to use the weekly DraftKings contest as good bankroll management. We know we can cash about 70% of the time in cash contest. We can do that. We're going to have a profitable season. So that was very much my strategy going into 2023. And it just sucks the last 3 weeks because it's frustrating just knowing that, especially with some of the hand builds, if you make one little change, you're winning a GPP. Like last week, if I switch from Aaron Baddeley to Eric Cole, which in 150 max entry contest probably happens in one of my builds, and those are always unfortunate. What kind of question you got there, JB? I'd be happy to answer here, but we're almost done, about an hour here. So I'd be happy to answer a question, but let's see. Oh yeah. So yeah, this is more of a PGA one, but yeah, fantasy points was the way to go for NBA. It was pretty awesome day for Taco Tuesday. Well, we'll see. If we don't have any more questions, I'll be getting out of here really shortly here. It's a fun live stream. I tend to do these, or I want to do these a little bit more on Wednesday, kind of like I did in the past, where just taking your guys' questions on Wednesday. Once again, I kind of feel like I've been laying down the fantasy golf community a little bit with not doing live streams. So hopefully I can get back into that a little bit more. And I think it'll work schedule-wise. And I will be doing an Occupy Fantasy NBA live stream in 2 hours from now. Okay. So I'll be covering that as well. So if you guys want to, make sure to check that out as well. Okay. I give about 4 videos of NBA DFS advice a week on there. And we also do live streams on there as well. Any thoughts on I haven't ended up on anyone below 6.4 this week. Okay. I've like Zach Johnson, Adam Shank. That's kind of the lowest I went. I'll kind of show you this as well here. So like Eric Cole, Justin Sa, I'm fine with. Let me pull this up. 1 second. It's like, this is kind of what I'm looking at. Danny Willett, I'm fine with, like good win player. Adam Shank, I'm fine with as well. So that's kind of who I'm ending up on. Why don't I post NBA DFS videos? It's honestly because I've been doing them on Occupy Fantasy. So I'll do the PrizePicks NBA DFS video. And honestly, it's just like, the NBA contest just wasn't good for the algorithm. Like obviously I'm a fantasy golf, you can say expert if you want. But that's the appeal for me is doing fantasy golf content. And so then PrizePicks I love doing. It's kind of helping the channel out. Full disclosure, it's helping the channel out a lot. So like it'd be stupid for me not to cover it. But obviously I love fantasy golf, so I never go away from that. But the DFS, the DraftKings FanDuel content just wasn't good for the channel. It was hurting the growth, in full honesty. I would love to. It's just getting 600 views on that, not worthwhile for it to hurt the channel. And so I'm already doing coverage on Occupy Fantasy. So if you guys want to, definitely make sure to check that out. We've had some pretty good success there. Once again, I'll be doing a live stream today on there at 3:15 Central, so about 2 hours from now. Yep. So yeah, it's just on a different channel. That's all. So Johnny, yeah, I will be planning to do more live streams, and for like the PrizePicks coverage, it's more an underdog coverage. It's more, I don't want to put out content when I don't have anything to provide, if that makes sense. Any useful picks to provide. I would really want it when I put out content to be as actionable information wise as possible. So if it's a day in which there's enough to cover for a live stream, I'll do a live stream. If we only have like 5 plays that are really strong, I'll put out a video. If we don't have any, I just don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time, full disclosure. So we'll see there. But yeah, if we don't have any more questions, I'll be getting out of here very, very shortly. So if you guys, look at that stochastic plus package. You don't have to get that. That's a little bit overpriced. But if you guys ever have any questions about kind of what goes into the tools on my website, you can just click this and check it out. Okay, $10 a month if you guys want to. And honestly, I don't ever want to try it. It's not like I'm selling anything, but it's just there if you want it. Just trying to see if you have any more questions here before I finish up. But it was a good live stream. I'm hoping that we can have a good Puerto Rico Open. It's a fun one. Obviously, it starts early, and so it's always fun to have an early sweat in the AM, like when you wake up and you can check your lineups. It's fun, and that's so I typically do the DP tour as well, so that's fun. But I'm kind of looking forward to this one as well with the API. Should be a strong week. But that's all for this video today, guys. Had a pretty good number that was in here. Before you leave, if you haven't hit the like button, just do that. That's going to help out the channel a lot. Let's have a good week in PGA DFS. Let's keep cashing, guys. It's been such a fun run this season. It's a crazy run. At some point we're gonna have some terrible weeks. We've had like one, and then the rest have been solid. And at some point the bottom's gonna drop out, and we're gonna have another bad week. But it's been a fun run, and hopefully we can continue that. All right, thanks for watching. That's all I have for today's video. Good luck this weekend as always. Let's keep cashing.